Happy 2020, first of all. That's kind of the most exciting. Or happy 2021. Oh my goodness, that's the second time I've done that. Hopefully, I do have 361 more days to get that right, but 2021, Happy New Year. And I'm Kali. This is Restorative Yoga. I know a good number of you on here, but I think we have maybe a few new people also. And I mentioned last week that these next 5 weeks are going to be kind of a series. Each class will stand alone as an individual class, and we certainly don't have to be present at all of these classes to get the benefit out of any given one of them. But I just wanted to kind of at the beginning of this year, at the end of what was a difficult year, it seems, for most of us, it had its challenges for most people. Just try to really ground down, pull in, and just settle into this new year in a way that maybe will allow us to just be more present, be more the person we want to be for ourselves and for all of those around us. And one thing that I was recently doing some additional teacher training on that stuck with me was this concept in yoga of what are called the vayus. And what that word technically means is air, and the technicalities of that part of it are not, to me, all that important, because once I learned about them, what I found was that they were really concepts that were part of my practice even before I knew what they were. So there's 5 of them, and I just, over the next 5 weeks, will share with you what they are. But more than anything, they're just about how we give our energy, how we get our energy, where our energy goes, and what that means. So it's about becoming more responsive and less reactive. So it's about when you're in traffic and that person cuts you off and your first instinct is a reaction. It's just that whatever that reaction is, thoughts, words, actions. And instead of reacting, being able to respond, and maybe just taking a breath, and maybe that breath is your response. So finding that difference between being responsive and reactive. So how do we ground? How do we find that settling? How do we feel connected, settling into our own bodies so that we aren't just going through the routines of the day one after the other, but that they become somewhat meaningful? Sometimes I think we all probably have a junk drawer, and in that junk drawer we have things that are super important. I keep really important things in my junk drawer because I know where they are. But I keep a lot of other stuff in the junk drawer too. And all of the things in that junk drawer somehow gain equal weight, equal importance. And the same thing kind of goes for life. Sometimes life just feels a little bit like a junk drawer. And it's like I'm pulling in, just, sure, I'll take that. Yes, I can do that. I can do this. I can do this. And within all of that, I have all the things that are super important, but at the same time, I have everything else that's just kind of cluttered around me. And it all loses a little bit of its meaning because everything ends up getting the same amount of attention. So how do we kind of filter through that and just finding what we need to align with? We talk about alignment a lot in yoga, and most often it means aligning through asanas, through shapes in our body. But this is something bigger than that. This is what your intention is. This alignment is what you align with as a person. So maybe it is as simple as an intention. Maybe you think of it as something even bigger, like what is your purpose here? What is it, the bigger picture of what you want to do? And so just trying to find that alignment. Again, trying to just think about what it is you align with. Do you align with the sun, with the moon, with the day, with the night, with what your friend's doing, with your faith? Just trying to kind of come up with some bigger thing that could almost just encompass everything you do. And allowing that to be something that you can come back to. And it's kind of the beginning and end of all of what these next 5 weeks are going to be. Because once you realize that whatever this bigger picture of alignment is, whether it's compassion, whether it's something you can't even put into words, it's just a feeling. You know that there are things that you need to do to head in the right direction. And you don't have to be able to put words to it. But knowing that everything you do contributes to that ultimate alignment, that intention, your faith, whatever it is, it makes it easier to go through all of those little things and find meaning in them. Thich Nhat Hanh, a great writer, meditation expert, talks about the fact that even washing your dishes can be somewhat of a meditation and can be meaningful. And again, if everything is getting us to some bigger ultimate goal, it's easy to see how that is. So that's kind of the bigger picture. The smaller picture for this week is about pulling all of that energy that we tend to just kind of pour out, kind of pulling it all in. So the example that one of my teachers gives is the example of the rushed mom in the morning. So the mom or the dad who's trying to get a couple of kids ready and the milk spills and the dog gets sick and somebody steps on a banana, and trying to get the kids out of the house. You get out the kids out of the house, somebody doesn't want to get into their car seat in the car. You get in the car and you realize your battery's dead. And so you've got all this energy just spilling out in all these different ways in so many different directions. And this is trying to figure out how to pull all that energy back in, that frenetic outpouring of energy that so often I just feel like a sieve. It just pours out of me. And it's hard to find focus when everything's just kind of here and there and everywhere. And this is one of those things that for me, yoga really helped me pull in and find a center point so that all of the important things could still go on. The milk spilled, the kids getting to the car, these are all things that had to be part of the day. But just taking in that big breath, pulling in a little closer, pulling all those things in, almost just like hugging in that energy so that it can be in a space where it can still be used by you and you can give it to the parts that give that energy, that attention to the parts that need it. So we're going to start seated. I think that's probably where most of us are. And we'll just keep going with this theme today. If you have a block or anything to sit on, just to put under your hips, it might make being seated a little more comfortable. Just getting your hips a little bit elevated so that they're higher than your knees. And if you haven't started that playlist and want to, or if you started at the beginning, any of the above are fine. But just getting to a comfortable seat. Starting to maybe close your eyes. Maybe thinking about how all that energy just kind of bounces around in the space around you. Starting to bring some attention to your breath and allowing that inhale to be what helps you pull everything in. So we're going to spend a lot of time focusing on the inhale. So all of your breaths today are just very much about the inhale. The exhale is the passive part today. Each inhale, just imagining everything coming in a little bit tighter. That inhale just attracts it, pulls it in, almost feeling your skin get a little tighter, that muscle pulling tighter to bone, just that container of your body. That's where we want to keep that energy, is in that container of our body. So once we get it in there, it's going to bounce around still. It takes all of those breaths all day long. Still pulling in. Just taking a couple moments here, really imagining your breath being pulled in, pulling in all the busyness, letting it come in, finding a settling. Each breath, a little bit more of a hug. That container, that vessel of your physical body. Just finding a little more shape with each breath. In a moment, we'll do some breathing together. We'll do 6 counts in, a 4 count hold, 4 counts out, and a 4 count hold. So really trying to make that inhale long, controlled, seeing if you can find the focus in those inhales. We'll just do 3 rounds of this. So if you want to, if you want to join me, taking an inhale in here just to sync up, and then exhale. You can exhale through an open mouth since we're all at home in our own spaces, if that feels good. And then inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, hold, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, hold, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Last one, inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, hold, 2, 3, 4, and exhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Dropping those holds, coming back to your inhale and exhale, maybe allowing them to become even. Thinking about those inhales, really filling you all the way up, pulling everything in. Your exhales, just releasing. If you're sitting on anything, maybe removing it, feeling a little more of a connection with whatever's underneath you. Really grounding down, feeling that full support as you pull everything in, really experiencing that grounding, that settling down. Next inhale, opening up with your arms, coming up all the way overhead. Again, gathering up, and then as you exhale, just pulling down through center. Again, big inhale all the way up, and exhale, again, down through center. Again, inhale all the way up. And then this time, letting your left hand come down, right arm up and over. Opening through your right side body. Big stretch all the way down the right side into your hip. Then letting your right hand find your left knee and twisting over your left shoulder. Crown of your head rising up. Your gaze going over that back shoulder. Exhales, just helping you to find this twist. Coming back through center again, gathering everything up, arms coming up tall overhead. This time right hand down, left arm up and over. Big stretch down the left side body. Inhales, expanding out through your left ribs. And then finding your twist. Left hand coming down, right arm opening behind you. Again, trying to take your gaze back over that right shoulder. Inhales, helping you find length. Exhales, helping you find that twist. Coming back around to center. Opening your arms wide, just opening all the way out. And then as you exhale, rounding your spine, letting your chin come towards your chest, hands coming together. So inhaling, open, almost a version of cat-cow. And exhale, rounding to close. Again, inhaling, open. Maybe your gaze goes up. And exhale, close. Starting to find your way towards tabletop. So once you get here, letting your hands come below your shoulders, your hips over your knees. We'll go through a couple rounds of cat-cow here, letting your belly drop, hips, head, and shoulders rise, and then exhaling, crown of your head, tailbone coming down. Again, inhale, opening, and exhale, close. On this inhale, imagining your ribs just wrapping a little tighter around your torso. And then again, exhaling to close. This time, just coming back to that neutral spine. Starting to walk your hands out, finding melting heart. So hips stay high, your chin or your forehead can come down. Maybe placing props, blocks, blankets under your chin or your forehead, just to make the ground a little bit higher. Big stretch across your back, across your shoulders, into your chest. Starting to walk your hands back under your shoulders. And then we're going to take threaded needle. So on an inhale, bringing that right hand towards center, and inhale takes your left arm up. As you exhale, threading it under, coming to land on the back of your left shoulder. So once you get here, your head can rest. You can keep your right hand pushed down into the floor if you'd like, opening up a little through your chest, or you can wrap it around. Coming back to your inhales, feeling them really pulling in. Again, that image, that thought of bone pulling in closer, muscle pulling in closer to bone, that vessel of your body just becoming more solid, more concrete instead of just an idea. Starting to release, letting your right hand come down if it's not already there. Pushing down and then lifting up for a counter stretch, that left arm coming up. Switching sides, letting your left hand come down towards center. Inhale, takes your right arm up, and then threading it under, coming to rest on the back of your right shoulder. Finding that variation on this side. Maybe your left hand stays down, or it wraps around behind. Staying with those inhales and exhales. Again, letting your left hand come down, pushing into the floor and opening up with the right for that counter stretch. Right hand comes back down and then dropping your hips back. So child's pose. For child's, you can keep your knees close or you can spread them a little further towards the edges of your mat. Bringing your chest forward, maybe forehead down. If this isn't a comfortable shape for you, you can place a blanket in between the backs of your legs. Sometimes it'll just give you enough height, enough elevation to make this shape a little more comfortable. If it doesn't work, through your knees or through any other part, maybe just coming to a seat, closing your eyes again, settling down. Starting to come back up, coming to a seat, letting your legs come out in front of you. Just bringing the sole, well, we'll take legs all the way out, and then just kind of shaking those legs out a bit. Starting to let your right leg go out to the side, left leg pulled in. Inhale, takes your arms up tall, creating space in your torso, and then an exhale is just going to let you fold forward. Whatever that forward fold means for you. Might just mean your chin coming down towards your chest. Or it may mean coming all the way down towards the floor. Feeling that big stretch through the right side, inner thigh, down that right side of your back, but not forcing anything. And then just taking your right forearm towards your right thigh for a side bend. So right arm down, left arm up and over. Again, opening down that left side body, keeping your shoulders stacked, still opening through the chest. Staying with your breath. Focusing on your inhales, coming back to that idea of alignment. What it is that everything's aligning for and with. Pulling that energy in, just trying to find that calm. As you come up, letting your left hand come back by your left hip, hand down on the mat, and then pushing into your left shin to bring your hips up. You can also do this leaving your hips down, just opening up through that top arm, gaze going up. So seeing where that works best in your body. Letting your hips come back down, and then we'll switch sides. So left leg out, right leg in. Inhale again, creating space in your torso, making your spine long, and then folding forward. Trying to keep both hips down, grounded through both sides as you find that fold forward. And that might be what limits how far you fold, but you may feel more in the shape if you can ground down through your hips. Finding any movement through any of these shapes. If you find a spot that needs some extra attention, maybe just hanging out there, taking a few extra breaths, allowing it to release. Left hand starting to come towards your left thigh, right arm up and over, big stretch all the way down that right side body. Keeping your chest open, shoulders stacked. And then beginning to come up, right hand coming back by your right hip and pushing either into your shin or just opening up by keeping your hips down. You can find any movement through that top shoulder, that left shoulder. Starting to let those hips come back down and lowering yourself all the way onto your back on the mat. Once you get here, bringing your legs in, just rocking side to side. Allowing all those muscles that run down our spine, all those muscles that keep us upright all day long, just letting them release for a moment. And then starting to make some circles with your knees. So tailbone is the center point. As you just start to go around, maybe imagining that you're drawing a circle on the ceiling with your knees. Going in both directions. Once you've evened that out, coming back to center. Letting the left sole of the foot come down on the mat and sending the right leg up towards the ceiling, starting to roll out your ankle. Getting out some pops and cracks. And then reversing. Pointing through your toes, Feeling that big reach all the way down the front of your leg. Maybe rotating your leg in that hip joint. Feeling that elongation down the inside of your leg, down the outside. And then flexing your foot, pulling your toes back towards your body, heel up. Big stretch down the back of your leg. Beginning to pull your right leg into your chest. Letting your left leg straighten. Letting your biceps do all the work here. Shoulders, neck relaxed. Feeling your neck long. And then starting to find a twist. Letting your right leg fall across your body. Maybe stacking your knees. Opening up over your right shoulder. Couple extra breaths here. Coming back onto your spine, finding supine tree. Letting your left leg go long, your right leg opening out. You can bring your arms up overhead, reaching for wrists or elbows, getting in a little bit of a chest opener. Staying with your inhales and exhales. Allowing your whole body to release. Starting to switch legs, right sole of the foot coming down and sending your left leg up. Rolling out your ankle on this side, both directions. Getting out all those pops and cracks. And then pointing your toes, that big stretch down the front of your leg, maybe finding a little rotation in your hip joint. Making that rotation slow, really feeling why you're doing it. Finding the purpose of that movement, as with all the movements we make. And then flexing, pulling your toes back, heel up. Feeling that stretch all the way down the back of your leg, maybe even into your glute, really grounding down through both hips, but especially that left one, trying not to let it lift. Pulling your left leg into your chest, right leg going long. Maybe your grip is on top of your shin or just behind your thigh. Shoulders, neck, released, relaxed, biceps, doing all the work here. And then starting to find your twist. Left leg falling across. Again, maybe stacking your knees or propping that top knee on a block. Opening over your left shoulder. Each inhale, just picturing pulling everything in. All that energy that kind of darts and dashes around. The breath seems to have some degree of control over it. Even if it's just, and it probably is just imaginary. But letting that thought, that image, for me it's a very strong image, when I think about it, just as I inhale, everything coming in towards center. Coming back onto your spine to find supine tree, right leg long, left leg out with the sole of the foot coming in. Again, adding in the chest opener with your arms overhead. Thinking about becoming more responsive, less reactive. Reactions are generally quick, sometimes not all that thought out. Responses we can think of as intentional. That pause that's required to process a response. Thinking before we act. That's the difference between response and react. Bringing both soles of the feet to the mat and just windshield wipering them back and forth. Coming back to center. And if you have a block or a blanket, anything you can put under your hips. With a block, you can use any of the three heights. So the lowest, the middle, or the tallest. I like, especially for restorative, I like the lowest height. But you may like something else. Just picking up your hips, pushing down through your feet to lift up, placing whatever you're using underneath your hips, and settling back down. So whether that's a blanket, bolster, block, just allowing it to support you. Taking in this little bit of an inversion. Thinking of your long spine all the way up through your neck. Extending through your neck. Giving your throat a little space. That throat chakra, the things we say out loud and to ourselves, a big part of our energy, how we spill that energy out, how we use our energy, how we react. Maybe for these next two inhales, just imagining that energy around the throat chakra, around the things we say. Inhales, just pulling that all back in. Pushing down through your feet to lift your hips back up. Removing whatever prop you have under there. Again, just taking those windshield wipers with your knees. Slow and controlled, being mindful as you roll across your hips, your glutes. Coming back to center. And coming up to a seat, so maybe rolling to your side to do that. This first restorative shape that we'll take today, similar, if not exactly the same to the one we took last week. Just seems to be a really good way to start off the restorative shape. So making a bit of an incline with your props. You can do that with two pillows or with a folded blanket and a pillow. You just want something to make a little bit of an incline, of a ramp. Once you find how you're going to make that, maybe it's with blocks, blankets, bolsters, whatever works best for you. If you're doing it with blocks, one block on the medium height, one block on that taller height. Sometimes it'll move a little bit as you get into the shape, but it is really a stable support once you find it. I'm going to do it with 2 bolsters today. Gathering up, if you want a blanket to keep you warm, I like to put a blanket at the base of the incline, just a little more cushioning under my tailbone, under anything that's touching the mat. You may want a blanket on top of you, or even just rolled under your knees. So sitting back against that incline, bringing anything you need with you, starting to lower yourself down. If you have an eye pillow or just a shirt, towel, anything you can put over your eyes, blocking out a little more light. Making sure your arms are supported. If that incline is really high, you may need to just find some rolled blankets, towels, even just books under your arms so that they're not dangling in space too much. Settling in. You start to find stillness. Trying not to let the thoughts pick up too much. Coming back to that visual of your breath, just helping you pull in, finding center, feeling all of your energy just settling in, giving it a bit of a rest. Thinking about what you're trying to align with. Maybe even who you're trying to align for. Staying here with your breath. As those thoughts pick up, that is what they tend to do. Coming back to your breath each time, knowing that it's not how many times your mind wanders, it's how many times you're able to pull it back. We'll stay here for about 5 more minutes. I'll let you know when it's time to move. this shape is serving you well, I highly recommend staying in it for as long as you'd like, even if that's the rest of class. If you want to move into another shape, just starting to find a little bit of movement in fingers and toes, waking the body up just enough to find your way up to a seat. I'm going to use these same props as they are already set up for this next shape. For this next shape, just coming onto one side or the other at a seat. So you're just going to bring one leg, one hip up against that incline. Doesn't matter which, just whichever side is easiest to start. We'll do the other side in a moment. And then laying your chest down on that bolster, blanket or pillow. If you don't want the incline, you can do this one, or if you want less of an incline, you can do this at any level. So maybe lowering it down a little bit. Letting your cheek, side of your face come down, probably facing the same way as that leg that's up against the bolster. So if you're facing the same way, it's a pretty restorative shape. If you want a more yin shape, you can turn your gaze in the other direction. It's a big stretch down the back of the neck. But settling in, we'll stay in this shape just a couple of minutes on each side. Coming back to the breath after that little bit of movement to get here, just allowing the thoughts, everything to settle back down. Finding your stillness. Staying with your breath. Three more rounds of breath in the shape. And then just finding enough movement to switch sides. So bringing the opposite leg up to the bolster, bringing your chest back down. Again, settling in. Falling back into that space. Remembering what you're aligning with for that bigger picture. More breaths here. Starting to find your way up to a seat. And then this next shape, which you may choose to stay in through into Shavasana, but just placing one bolster down the length of your mat, so it'll run the length of your spine. And again, bringing your tailbone back almost on top of it, so really touching it. And then just lowering your spine down. So you do want your tailbone on the mat. You can extend your legs, or again, just keep something rolled underneath your knees. Letting your arms either be down by your side or even resting on top of you. Just a few breaths here as you settle in. And then crossing your arms over your chest. So taking that right arm on top to start, just crossing your arms over, maybe reaching for shoulder blades or just letting your arms hang, but almost just giving yourself a hug. Really imagining in this shape that everything's being pulled in a little closer to center, because in some ways it physically is. But again, using that breath, hugging everything in. Just letting your arms relax to the extent that you can in the shape. And then we'll switch sides. Opening your arms big chest opener. And then crossing, this time left arm on top. And each breath, pulling everything in towards center. Releasing your arms from this shape. And if this is a shape with the bolster down your spine that you'd like to stay in for Shavasana, feeling free to do that, making any adjustments. And if you'd rather just be flat on your spine, taking that bolster, or maybe it's a rolled blanket, whatever you have, you can take that out. If you want to use a blanket to cover yourself up, finding some warmth, a little extra comfort. Taking the time to do that, really setting up for Shavasana, allowing it to be the most comfortable that you can make it. Taking a moment, once you're settled in, you have an eye pillow, placing that over your eyes. Wherever you are, settling in, feeling your body becoming heavy. Taking a body scan, starting at your toes. Each body part as you come to it, allowing it to relax. Tops, your feet, the arches of your feet, your ankles and heels, shins and calves. Space behind your knees, your thighs, hamstrings, your hips. Maybe spending an extra breath here, allowing them to fully release. Tailbone heavy, Feeling your belly as it rises and falls. Your chest expanding and contracting. Your shoulders down, relaxing away from your ears. Moving down your arms, biceps, triceps, elbows, forearms, wrists, thumbs, palms, and all your fingers. Arms just feeling heavy. Coming back up, feeling your jaw relax, lips, teeth, and tongue, cheeks, your forehead. Imagining your body as a whole, all those parts and pieces together. Fully supported, fully relaxed. Hopefully, the energy has pulled in isn't so frenetic. Calm and resting, knowing that this rest, this time, is meant to allow you to move from this practice later, taking with you all this peace and calm. So just resting in this for now, knowing that it will continue serving you later. I'll let you know when it's time to move. If you want to continue this Shavasana even longer, just turning off your device, continuing for as long as you can. If you're ready to find a little movement, allowing your next breath to be deeper than the last. Finding movement in fingers and toes. Reaching arms and legs long or pulling in, finding any last shapes you need. Taking your time. Ultimately, coming to rest on your right side. Taking a moment here, feeling that stillness, using this as a reset. Starting to find your way up to a seat. Keeping your eyes closed if you can. Bringing your hands to heart center. Pulling in a little gratitude, however big, however small. Starting to allow light back in. Taking in one more big inhale, pulling all your energy into center. And then exhale. Allowing this practice, these thoughts, to help you find some grounding, find some stability. In yoga, we want to find stability and still in that stability, mobility. So sometimes we say stability on mobility, and it sounds a lot like pivoting. And I think a pivot is certainly what 2020 taught us. So maybe taking that good part into 2021, allowing for the stability, the grounding to help us become more responsive and less reactive. I wish you all a great week. I thank you as always for practicing here, and I hope to see you next week. Namaste.